Hello folks, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to talk to you about a unique phenomenon in the piercing industry and a little bit of a sensitive subject. So this is your content warning at the beginning of this video that we are going to be discussing some themes of sexual assault and just kind of like boundary crossing and inappropriate client behavior. So if that is not something that you want to hear me talk about, or if that is not something you're currently comfortable listening to, skip this video. Go watch the next one. But I would like to talk to you about the prevalence of weird callers or weird contactors in the piercing and body modification industry. And what I mean by this is there is a very, very small but very vocal subgroup or genre of clients who I hesitate to even call them clients because they're not really clients. They never come into anyone's studio. They never get piercings. They're just weird, creepy dudes who get off being inappropriate about body piercings with studios, either on the phone or through social media, through emails, through messages. And it is like a real prevalent problem in the piercing industry. Shortly after I moved to work at Icon in Nashville, I found out about a very infamous man known only as Lemon Tits. And this is a man who has been calling studios in like the Midwest / South of America for, God, probably like 10 to 15 years. And he'll call, he'll get on the phone, he'll say he has questions about getting some nipple piercings done. Oftentimes he'll say he has questions because his wife wants to get them done. And the phone call starts out normal. He asks how much it's gonna cost, if it hurts, what jewelry we use, you know, regular run-of-the-mill questions that people would ask when they wanna get piercings. And then things get a little weird. He starts asking if you can pierce through them if someone is lactating. And that's a normal question. Honestly, you know, some people lactate for a very long time after they're done breastfeeding. So it's a reasonable question for someone to have. Then he goes on to ask if you could pierce male nipples that are lactating. And generally this is the point where someone's like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you know, me and my wife, we've done stuff to induce lactation, and, you know, my nipples also lactate. Like, do you think you'd be able to pierce me? And he'll continue to ask questions about if his anatomy is pierceable. He'll start to get very in-depth describing his nipples to you over the phone, saying that they are large like the tips of lemons, which is where the nickname Lemon Tits comes from. And basically, he just tries to keep women and feminine sounding people on the phone for as long as possible, talking in depth about his nipples and about how he wants to pierce them. How will the process be? How will you touch them? Will you clamp them? And he's just, you know, he's sitting somewhere getting his rocks off, asking these questions and having these interactions on the phone. And I could not believe it. I could not believe it when I started working at Icon, except we got multiple phone calls from him. I have answered the phone for this man multiple times. I've had the same interactions with him, and I'm like genuinely not making this up. Like hundreds of piercers in studios around the South and the Midwest have gotten calls from this man over the course of the last 15 years. It's absurd. There's also the infamous Naval guy who will message different piercers, typically through Instagram, asking if he can get a belly button piercing, if they do belly button piercings for men. And then he'll ask if he can send pictures of his belly button. He'll ask if you can send pictures of belly button piercings that you've done. And he's just a dude with a belly button piercing fetish and who is getting off on like being inappropriate online. And he too will ask increasingly more in-depth and like borderline inappropriate questions about what he wants to get done, down to like asking you to describe the procedure and how you would be touching him during it. And make no mistake, this is not someone who is just very anxious and really needs to be prepared in depth to come in to get piercings. This is someone who is being sexually deviant and sexually inappropriate with piercers because of a very hyper-specific kink or fetish that they have. And these are people who do it to, again, hundreds of piercers. And the industry hasn't always been the best at handling these interactions. Like, for a very long time, it was laughed off as a joke or almost treated as a badge of honor. Like, I remember being much younger in the industry and seeing people post about getting messages from Naval guy, and people in the threads would say things like, oh, that's how you know you've made it if you're big enough on Instagram that Naval guy is messaging you, like, you know you're doing good as a piercer. Younger piercers in the South and the Midwest would hear like us talking or griping about these phone calls from Lemon Tits and be like, oh, my studio's like not even cool enough to get a phone call from Lemon Tits. And I think it's all just kind of this collective trauma response, because I handled that the same way too at first. Like, the first phone call I got from him, I texted my boss and was like, finally answered the phone for Lemon Tits, like, guess I'm officially a member of Icon now, like it was something cool or some kind of badge of honor that these inappropriate, gross, and disgusting men recognized me or my work or something to creep on and be pervy with. But you know, it's certainly easier to frame it that way and kind of laugh it off than it is to say, no, this is sexual harassment. This is inappropriate behavior. And people who answer these phone calls, who get these messages, are victims of sexual harassment. And I think for a long time, many of us just didn't want to have to admit that that was something that we had been through, or that that was something that was so prevalent in this industry. But in doing so, we've kind of hurt younger generations by making them think that it's acceptable or okay, or just something that you laugh off for someone to treat you like this or have this type of interaction with you. And it's not. It's completely unacceptable. And we should be warning young folks who are looking to get into the industry or new piercers and teaching them how to spot this predatory and unsafe behavior and how to properly shut it down. Because it's never okay for someone to take their personal fetish or personal kink or personal preference, even as it relates to body piercings, out on professional piercers. We are here to do a job. We are here to be professionals, and we are not here to be treated like basically sex objects for the gratification of someone's very distinct fetish. So if you are a younger piercer or apprentice or front of house and you're watching this video and you get any phone calls that make you feel weird or uncomfortable, or messages that seem like they're taking it too far, don't hesitate to pause the conversation. Like, if they're digital messages, just don't respond. Don't respond. Reach out to your mentor or your boss or another piercer you know in the industry and say, hey, do these messages seem like a normal client interaction? I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Can you look at what this person is sending me and telling me if this seems normal and safe? If it's a phone call, simply say, all right, sir, unfortunately, that's the only assistance I'll be able to provide you over the phone. If you'd like more information, you can schedule for a consultation appointment with one of our piercers. Have a nice rest of your day. And then hang up. Ideally, once you start to learn how to recognize this inappropriate behavior, especially with repeat offenders like Lemon Tits or Naval guy, record them. When you get a phone call with that and you hear their voice, and Lemon Tits has a very distinct voice. I started taking out my phone and recording the phone call and the inappropriate things, and we started filing police reports. Because if enough people file reports, they will. It's usually an unknown number, so it's not even like we could star 69 it. But if you get enough reports, the police, hopefully, will trace that number and find this person and, you know, hold him accountable for this really gross, really disgusting behavior that he's doing. So record it, gather evidence, file an incident report with your studio. If you get messages from Naval guy, that should be an incident report that you file with your studio. That should be something that you have documentation about. So God forbid this situation ever gets more serious, or we're able to find these people and hold them accountable. There's evidence across multiple studios for this. And don't treat it as a joke. Don't treat it as a laughing matter. I understand why that is an innate defense, self-defense and self-protection response that we have. And again, it's one that I've had in the past. But when we do that, we do a disservice to our younger colleagues and peers in this industry, and we do a disservice to ourselves by justifying what is abhorrent and unacceptable behavior in this industry and laughing it off. It's never acceptable for someone to take advantage of the work that we do like this. And if you're someone who's looking to get into the industry, I wish I could say this isn't something that you're going to have to deal with and this isn't a problem that exists, but it is. So you should be educated and aware of how these men prey on what we do for a living and how these interactions go in order to be able to keep yourself safe. I wish this weren't an issue at all in the industry, but I'm grateful that it seems to be a very minor one, and it seems to be ones that are isolated regionally. So I've never heard of Lemon Tits calling like outside of a couple of select regions in America. And Naval guy did eventually start messaging people in the UK after enough American piercers told him what was up, but he's been quiet for about a year now, I want to say. So maybe he's gone. Probably not. He loves to disappear and then crop back up after a bit. But really, please, everyone in this industry, stay safe. This kind of behavior is not acceptable. And it is something we should talk about and be transparent about, and something that we should come together as an industry to protect ourselves against. All right, folks, thanks so much for talking with me about this. I know it's a little bit of a heavy subject, and if you're someone who has dealt with these phone calls and these messages, my inbox is always a safe space if you want someone to talk to, if you want support, or if you want guidance in dealing with these matters. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to sit down and talk with y'all again soon. Bye.